He was a billionaire CEO with everything money could buy except peace. His twin children hadn't spoken a full sentence since their mother died, and they hadn't eaten a real meal in weeks. Nannies came and went. Therapists failed. Hope was slipping through his hands. But then came Clare, a quiet woman with a suitcase full of spices and a heart full of stories. What she did in just one afternoon stunned even him. She didn't just get the children to eat, she uncovered the secret they'd been hiding all along, and slowly began to heal what no one else could touch. But what happens when healing starts to feel like love? This story will take you from silence to laughter, from grief to hope, and just when you think it's over, one twist will change everything. Stay with us. What begins with cookies ends with a life neither of them saw coming. "Just one more bite, sweetheart," Clare Thompson said softly, her voice as gentle as the mashed potatoes she held in the spoon. Lily stared at the food with blank eyes, arms crossed over her chest. "I don't want it." Beside her, Caleb barely moved the fork across his plate. "Me neither." From the doorway, Daniel Foster stood frozen. His phone buzzed in his pocket again. He didn't answer. He hadn't answered much of anything in weeks. It had been 6 months since his wife passed away, and no matter what he tried, the twins just wouldn't eat. He stepped into the dining room, voice tight but tender. "Guys, please. You have to eat. Look at you, you're both skin and bones." "Dad, we're just not hungry," Lily mumbled, eyes fixed on the plate. Clare watched from across the table, quietly assessing the scene. She was just there for a trial afternoon, one more nanny in a long string of failed candidates. But the tension in the air told her this wasn't about picky eaters. It was grief, heavy, lingering, silent. "Mr. Foster," she said gently, "may I ask the kids something?" Daniel nodded, exhausted. "Please. If you can get them to eat, you're already more qualified than the last 4. Clare knelt beside the twins, lowering herself to their eye level. Her tone changed, soft, curious, warm. "Lily, Caleb. Do you like caramel pudding?" Lily's eyes flickered. Caleb gave the smallest nod. "And popcorn?" Clare asked, smiling just a little. "I love popcorn," Lily whispered. Clare tilted her head. "So, maybe you do feel hungry sometimes, just not for what's on the plate right now." The twins exchanged glances. Clare had struck a nerve. "It's not that we're not hungry," Lily began, then paused. Her gaze darted toward her father. Daniel leaned forward. "It's okay, honey. You can tell her. We're saving food." Caleb finally said, his voice barely audible. Daniel blinked. "Saving it for who?" Without another word, Lily jumped up and ran upstairs. They all watched her go, confused. She returned moments later holding a shoebox hugged tightly to her chest. She placed it on the table and lifted the lid. Inside were tiny containers of leftovers, spoonfuls of peas, crusts of bread, bits of cereal. "For Mom," Lily said quietly, her chin trembling. "When she comes back, she'll be hungry." Silence gripped the room like a fist. Daniel's hands shook as he knelt down in front of his children. His voice cracked. "Sweethearts, you remember what we talked about. Mommy's not coming back." "But what if she's just lost?" Lily whispered. "What if she's out there and doesn't know how to find us?" Clare's throat closed. She stepped in carefully, her own emotions stirring. "You know what I think," she said gently. "I think your mom would be really sad if she knew you were skipping meals. Moms always want their kids to be strong, healthy, and happy." "But what if she could come back?" Caleb asked, eyes wide with hope. Clare nodded slowly. "If that ever happened, wouldn't she want to find you two smiling, full of energy, not weak or sick?" The twins looked at each other, then back at Clare. Slowly, they shook their heads. "How about this?" Clare offered. "Every time you eat, you imagine you're making your mom proud up there in heaven. She's watching you grow, and every bite tells her you're okay." It wasn't magic, but it was the first time someone had spoken to their grief instead of around it. Lily wiped her tears. "But will you eat with us?" "Of course," Clare smiled. "And tonight, how about I make something special? Something you've never had before." "Caramel popcorn," Lily asked, her eyes lighting up. "First," Clare said with a playful grin, "we eat real dinner. Then we celebrate." That night, for the first time in months, the twins cleared most of their plates. It wasn't a feast, but it was a beginning. Daniel stood at the doorway, watching Clare as she rinsed the dishes. Her presence had transformed something in the air, lifted a fog that even therapists and doctors hadn't been able to touch. "Thank you," he said almost too quietly. Clare dried her hands and turned to him. "I didn't do much. You did everything," he replied. "In one afternoon, you reached them in a way I haven't in 6 months." Clare gave a sad smile. "Sometimes it takes someone from the outside to see what's missing inside." Daniel nodded. He didn't say it out loud, but he already knew he had found more than a nanny. He might have just found a path forward. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you were Daniel, would you trust someone new so soon, yes or no? Do you believe children feel grief as deeply as adults do? Yes or no, should Clare stay longer in this home? Yes or no, drop your answers in the comments, we want to hear your voice. The next morning, Clare arrived not in a rush or flustered, but calm and intentional, carrying 2 large suitcases and a cardboard box that smelled faintly of cinnamon and sun-dried herbs. Daniel Foster, still in his pajamas and half awake, opened the front door with a mug of black coffee in hand. "Morning," she smiled. "You brought your entire kitchen?" "Something like that," Clare said. "I thought I'd stay a little longer if that's still okay." Daniel hesitated. The truth was, he'd hardly slept. His mind kept replaying Lily's shoebox of food and Clare's gentle voice piercing through the silence of their grief. He didn't have a plan, but something in him whispered, "Don't let her go." Yeah, come in." Clare stepped inside, already breathing life into the cold marble kitchen. "Kids still asleep." "Like rocks," he nodded. "Good," she said, opening a box to reveal brightly colored spice jars, cornmeal, and a sealed bag of homemade biscuit mix. "Then we've got time to warm up this house." Daniel blinked at her. "You do realize this is a modern high-end kitchen, right? Most of those knobs haven't been touched since my wife." He stopped himself. Clare softened. "Then it's about time we use them." Within an hour, the sleek white countertops were dusted with flour. The sterile kitchen smelled like toasted butter, vanilla, and something else, memory. When Caleb stumbled downstairs, rubbing his eyes, he paused mid-step. "What's that smell?" Clare looked up. "Homemade southern pancakes." "What kind?" Lily appeared behind him. "You get to choose your filling," Clare grinned. "Cinnamon, apple, banana chocolate, or peanut butter swirl." The kids blinked at her like she was magic. Soon they were helping flip pancakes on the stove, laughing as batter splattered the counter. For the first time in months, Daniel heard his children giggle without effort. He sipped his coffee at the edge of the kitchen and simply watched. The ache in his chest shifted. Not gone, but lighter. "Dad, you're going to eat too, right?" Lily asked. "Absolutely," Daniel said, grabbing a plate. They sat down together, an actual breakfast table with food that hadn't come from a box or been reheated by a housekeeper. And this time, they all finished their plates. Later that day, Clare unpacked her things in the small guest house behind the main home. The windows overlooked a garden now half dead from neglect. Still, something about the space felt alive. When the kids came home from school, Clare had set up ingredients on the counter. "We're making cornbread cookies," she announced. Lily's eyes widened. "We've never made cookies before." "Well, today you do," Clare said. "You're the chefs." They cracked eggs, stirred dough, spilled flour everywhere. And as they worked, Clare spoke softly about her own past. "My Grandma May used to say cooking was love with a crust." "Where is she now?" Caleb asked, licking batter off his finger. Clare paused. "She passed when I was a teenager, but I still feel her with me when I cook." "Like how we feel, Mom," Lily whispered. Clare nodded. Exactly like that. That evening, when Daniel returned from work, the house smelled like home, like sugar warmth and something hard to explain. "I made cookies," Caleb shouted, holding up a tray. "And we didn't burn any," Lily added proudly. Daniel smiled, took a bite, and paused. "What do you think?" Clare asked. He looked at her. "They taste like my childhood. I haven't felt that in years." Something shifted in his voice. Something real. That night at dinner, they talked about school-favorite animals and whether or not unicorns could survive in Oregon weather. Clare handled it all like she'd always belonged at that table. Daniel stayed behind afterward to help wash dishes. As they scrubbed side by side, something unspoken hovered between them. Comfortable, uncertain, alive. "You're doing more than just helping them," he said. "You're helping me." Clare didn't answer immediately. She rinsed the last plate, turned to him and said gently, "Then we're even, because being here is helping me too." There was a long pause, but just before the silence turned awkward, Caleb burst in waving a piece of paper. "Miss Clare, we have to do a school project about family traditions. Perfect timing." She smiled. "I want to talk about Grandma May's cookies," Lily said, joining them. "And pancakes, and all the new things you taught us." Daniel stood behind them, silent, moved. Something about the way the kids looked at Clare. They weren't just seeing a nanny. They were seeing something else, someone else. Later that night, after the kids went to sleep, Daniel walked past the kitchen and saw Clare packing away a few of her spice jars. "You don't have to cook every day, you know," he said gently. "I know," she replied, "but I like it." "You're doing more than cooking," he said. "You're helping them eat, asleep, laugh again." Clare hesitated. "Kids feel everything, Daniel. They know when something's broken, even when no one says it out loud." "And what about me?" he asked quietly. "What do you think I need?" Clare met his eyes, unflinching. "I think you need to stop surviving and start living again." The words hit deeper than he expected. For a moment, he almost said something else, something he wasn't sure he was allowed to say. But then Lily's soft cough came from upstairs and the moment broke. Claire smiled, turned off the kitchen light and whispered, "Good night." Daniel stood there long after she was gone, hands in his pockets, wondering if maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just healing for the kids. Maybe it was for him too. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. Do you think Daniel is starting to fall in love with Claire? Type yes if you feel the shift, or no if you think it's too soon. We'd love to know what you see in their story. 3 weeks later, the house no longer smelled like silence. It smelled like cinnamon muffins on Mondays, rosemary stew on Fridays, and something even stronger, belonging. Claire had become part of every routine: morning hugs, school lunches, bedtime stories. Even Daniel, once distant and reserved, had started coming home early, lingering in the kitchen, making small jokes with the kids. There was a softness to him now, like winter frost beginning to thaw. But none of it prepared Claire for what happened one Wednesday afternoon. She was in the laundry room folding the twins' socks when she overheard a voice outside the back door. A woman's voice, confident, sharp. Claire peeked through the curtain. A well-dressed woman stood at the doorstep holding a clipboard, lips pursed like she smelled something unpleasant. Evelyn Foster, Daniel's mother. Claire stepped outside. "You must be the babysitter," Evelyn said, eyeing her from head to toe. "I'm Claire Thompson," she replied politely. "And I'm not just, I know who you are. Daniel mentioned you in passing." Evelyn pushed through the door without invitation. "He tends to romanticize the people who rescue him." Claire stiffened. "I didn't rescue anyone." Evelyn wandered through the house, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Looks cleaner, brighter, even smells like someone actually lives here now." "I like to cook," Claire said, unsure where this was going. Evelyn stopped and faced her. "Let's be clear, you're temporary. These children need structure, not stories and cookies. And my son, he doesn't need another woman creating an illusion of family." Claire's heart pounded. She had faced a lot in her life: loss, betrayal, poverty, but nothing quite cut like this. "I don't pretend to be anyone's replacement," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I just care." Evelyn leaned closer. "Care doesn't keep children from falling apart again. Stability does. And when you leave, and you will, they'll feel it. All over again." With that, Evelyn turned on her heel and walked out. Claire stood still, stunned. The words pierced deep, planting seeds of doubt she thought she had long buried. That night, Claire barely touched her dinner. She smiled at the kids, told them stories as usual, but her laughter didn't ring as easily. Daniel noticed. After the kids had gone to bed, he found her outside on the porch, wrapped in a sweater, staring at the stars. "She came by," he said softly. Claire didn't respond. "I'm sorry," he added. "My mother doesn't always know when to stay in her lane." Claire turned to him, tears threatening her composure. "She's not wrong, Daniel. I'm not family. I'm not permanent. What happens when I leave?" Daniel looked at her, really looked. "Who says you have to?" She froze. "What are you saying?" He stepped closer. "I'm saying you've done more than bring warmth into this house. You brought us back. And somewhere along the way, I stopped waking up feeling empty. Because you were here. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. But you're grieving. I didn't want to confuse that with, this isn't confusion. Daniel said, his voice steady. It's clarity. A long silence passed between them, and then slowly he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. The next morning, Lily and Caleb found a note at the table. Today we're going to Grandma May's kitchen. Claire's lifelong dream was finally becoming real. With Daniel's help, she'd leased a charming little corner shop in downtown Portland, complete with a rustic oven and chalkboard menu. The name honored her roots. The food honored their future. Opening day was packed. Families, neighbors, and curious strangers filled the small space. Claire worked the counter while Lily handed out cookies and Caleb wiped tables. Daniel brewed coffee like a seasoned barista. They looked like a family. Mid-afternoon, a man entered, tall, tanned, with confident eyes. Ryan Carter, Claire's ex. She froze. He offered a sheepish smile. Claire, I didn't know you were still in Portland. She forced a polite smile. I'm not. I'm home. Ryan looked around clearly, realizing he'd lost her long before this moment. I always knew you'd do something big, he said. Claire nodded. You were right. You just weren't part of it. He left quietly, and as Claire turned back to the kitchen, she felt something beautiful, a full-circle peace. That night when they locked up the restaurant, Caleb asked Miss Claire, "Are you going to stay forever?" Daniel looked at her. She knelt beside the twins. Not forever, she said softly. Their faces dropped. She grinned. Because one day I won't be Miss Claire anymore. Lily blinked. What will you be? Claire glanced at Daniel, who smiled. Your stepmom. The twins screamed and hugged her so tight she almost fell over. Daniel laughed. Claire cried. And somewhere in the stars above Grandma May and Hannah Foster were smiling too. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. Did this story warm your heart? Do you believe love can be found in the most unexpected places? If yes, drop a 100 in the comments so we know you felt it too. Also, tell us what country are you watching from. We'd love to see where this story has traveled. And don't forget, share this video with someone who still believes in second chances.